Learning objectives of the today's presentation is the classification, symptomology, and the management. Definition. Priapism is a full or the partial erection that continues more than the 4 hours beyond the sexual stimulation and the orgasm, or it is unrelated to the sexual stimulation. It is classified into the 3 main categories. One is ischemic priapism, that is veno-occlusive or the low flow, non-ischemic, that is arterial or the high flow, and the starting priapism, that is intermittent and the recurrent ischemic. Ischemic priapism is a persistent erection marked by the rigidity of the corpora cavernosa with the little or the no cavernous arterial inflow, and in this erection is a painful. While the non-ischemic is a persistent erection caused by the unregulated cavernous arterial inflow. The corpora are the temescent but not the rigid, and the erection is not painful. While the starting is described as the presence of the recurrence, the term has traditionally been described the recurrent, prolonged, painful erection in the men associated with the sickle cell disease. Epidemiology. Reports on the epidemiology and the cause of priapism are greatly influenced by the prevalence of the sickle cell disease in the population described. The lifetime probability of the man with the sickle cell disease developing the ischemic priapism ranges from the 29 to the 42%. The mean age at the time of hospital admission associated with the sickle cell disease was 23.8 years, and for the non-sickle cell disease was the 40.8 years. Sickle cell diagnosis was associated with the 57% of the pediatric admission and the 20% of the adult admissions. There are the different causes, which includes the hematological, malignancy, trauma, infection, medication, drugs, metabolic disorders, and the neurological disorder. In the hematological, the sickle cell is the most common, as it accounts for 1/3 of the cases of the priapism. And the malignancy includes the leukemia and the genitourinary malignancy. Ischemic priapism. It is the most common form and also the most serious and the dangerous because of the acute ischemia of the corpora cavernosa. It is a persistent erection marked by the rigidity of the corpora cavernosa and the little or the no cavernous arterial inflow. There are the time-dependent changes in the corporal metabolic environment with the progressive hypoxia, hypercarbia, and the acidosis. Patient typically complains of the penile pain after the 6 to 8 hours, and the examination reveals a rigid erection. Intervention beyond the 36 hours of the onset may help to relieve the erection and pain, but have no benefit in the preserving the potency. When left untreated, resolution may take days to weeks, and the severe corporal fibrosis and the erectile dysfunction will result. Etiology of this is erection may begin with the sexual stimulation or the administration of the pharmacological agents. Once erection persists beyond the 4 hour and not relieved by orgasm or the pharmacological reversal, the mechanism of ischemic priapism begin. Outcome and the seriousness is directly related to the severity of the obstruction and the duration of the blockage of the drainage of corpora cavernosa. Decrease in the venous outflow and the vascular stasis causes the tissue hypoxia, anoxia, and the acidosis. Hypoxia and acidosis begins after the 4 hours and increase to the peak level in the 24 hours. Penile pain occurs with a significant tissue hypoxia. It leads to the loss of the contractility of the cavernous smooth muscle. Histological changes that occur: the edema of the cavernous tissue, destruction of the sinusoidal endothelium, exposure of the basement membrane, adherence of the thrombocytes, which occurs after the 24 hour, and the anoxia and the necrosis of the cavernous smooth muscle. That leads to the irreversible fibrosis, and that results in the erectile dysfunction. Sickle cell disease priapism has traditionally been ascribed to the stagnation of the blood within the sinusoids of the corpora cavernosa during the physiological erection, and secondly to the obstruction of the venous flow by the sickled erythrocytes. Account for at least 1/3 of all cases. Mean age of onset is the 15 years. 75% of the patient having the first episode before the age 20 year. Precipitating events were the sexual arousal or the intercourse, fever, sleep, cold weather, and the dehydration. 72% of the patient had a history of the starting priapism 3 times per month, with the mean duration of each episode was 1.2 hours. Pathophysiology of the sickle cell disease is that the hemolysis releases the hemoglobin into the plasma. Free hemoglobin reacts to the nitric oxide to produce the methaglobin and the nitrite. This is the Scansig reaction, as the vasodilator of the nitric oxide is oxidized to the inert nitrate. Sickled erythrocyte release arginase I into the blood, which converts the L-arginine into the ornithine, effectively removing the substrate for the nitric oxide synthesis. Instead of the nitric oxide resistance and insufficiency, it is termed as a hemolysis-associated endothelial dysfunction. Hemolysis and the reduced nitric oxide responsible for the priapism, whereas the increased blood viscosity is responsible for the painful crisis. Sickle cell disease priapism associated with the decreased hemoglobin and the increased hemolytic marker, which includes reticulocyte count, bilirubin, LDH, and AST. Cerebrovascular accidents are more frequent and close to the episode of the full-blown priapism syndrome known as ASPIN, which is associated with the sickle cell disease, priapism, exchange transfusion, and the neurological events. Iatrogenic priapism due to the intracavernous injection. Intracavernous injections remains an important therapeutic option for the men with a severe erectile dysfunction. Prolonged erection most commonly reported than the priapism after the intracorporeal injection. Most common of these drugs are the papaverine, prostaglandin E1, pentolamine, and the moxicillate. Most of these causes priapism result from the overdosage of these drugs. Incidence is less than with the prostaglandin 1 or the combination than the papaverine alone. Some oral medications are reported that cause the priapism, like the phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor therapy and the treatment medication used in the treatment of the attention deficit hyperactive disorder result in the prolonged erection or the priapism. Starting priapism. Starting priapism is an intermittent priapism. Describe a pattern of the recurrent priapism. Traditionally has been used to describe the recurrent, unwanted, and painful erection in the men with the sickle cell disease. Patient awaken with the erection that persists up to the 4 hour and become progressively painful secondary to the ischemia. Sickle cell disease patient may experience starting priapism from the childhood. Patient will experience repeated painful intermittent attacks up to the several hours before the remission. Commonly reported precipitants of the full-blown sickle cell disease priapism are the starting nocturnal at the early morning erection. Sleep-related erection takes place during the REM sleep and it is an androgen dependent. Sickle cell disease patients complain of the sleep-related erection lasting 3 to 4 hours and associated with the pain. Now, the non-ischemic priapism, high flow priapism, is a persistent erection caused by unregulated cavernous arterial inflow. It is much rarer than the ischemic priapism and mostly related to the trauma. Forces may be blunt at the penetrating, resulting in the laceration of the cavernous artery or one of its branches. Most common causes is startle injury to the crura, and other causes are the coital trauma, kicks to the penis or the perineum, pelvic fracture, birth canal trauma to the newborn male, or the vascular erosion complicating the metastatic infiltration of the corpora. Although the accidental blunt trauma is the most common cause of high flow priapism, occurs after the iatrogen, but high flow priapism can also occur after the iatrogenic injury during the cold knife urethrotomy, Nebis corpoplasty, or the deep dorsal vein arterialization. Aggressive management of the ischemic priapism, alpha-hydrogenic injection, or the aspiration or the shunting can convert to the low-flow priapism to the high-flow priapism. Color Doppler ultrasound shows the arterial sinusoidal fistula at the site of intervention. Pathophysiology of the high flow priapism is the laceration of the cavernous arteriole produce unregulated pooling of the blood in the sinusoidal space with the consequent erection. High flow priapism typically delays in the onset compared with the episode of the trauma. May develop after the 24 hours of the perineal or the penile blunt trauma. Unregulated arterial inflow creates an arteriolacunar fistula. Fistula forms a pseudocapsule that takes several weeks to the month. Non-fistular type of arterial priapism is a result of dysregulation of the cavernous inflow post-ischemia hyperemia. Secondary high-flow priapism should be suspected in the patient with the rapid recurrence, persistent erection with the partial penile rigidity, and it is not associated with the pain. Non-fistular arterial priapism is a rare complication after the management of the ischemic priapism. Dysregulated arterial inflow with or without a fistula can be distinguished with the persistent ischemic priapism by the color Doppler ultrasound. Priapism in the children. Most commonly, it is related to the sickle cell disease, which account for the 65%, then the leukemia, that is 10%, and the trauma is a 10%. Total incidence is the 2 to 6%. Majority of the cases has been conservatively managed with a spontaneous resolution. Color Doppler ultrasound should be performed. Children with a history of the trauma, arteriosinusoidal fistula, must be localized with the help of color Doppler ultrasound. Direct manual compression soften the high flow erection and may speed the spontaneous resolution. Conservative management works in the children due to the less subcutaneous fat and easily compressible crural bodies. High flow priapism may spontaneously resolve or respond to the perineal compression and the icing. Evolution and the diagnosis. History. Physician must determine whether the priapism is ischemic or the non-ischemic, as the ischemic priapism is the urological emergency. Duration of the erection and correlates it with the previous duration of the erection. Presence of the pain, previous episode of the priapism and its treatment, use of any erectogenic therapy, medication, sickle cell disease, hemoglobinopathies, hypercoagulable state, trauma to the pelvis, perineum, or the penis. Physical examination includes extents and the degree of the tumescence, rigidity, presence of the pain, evidence of the trauma. Examination of the abdomen, testicles, perineum, rectum, and the prostate to find out the malignancy. In the ischemic priapism, corporal body will be completely rigid. The glans penis and the corpora spongiosum is not, as it is not covered by the Buck's fascia. In the non-ischemic priapism, the corpora will be tumescent but not completely rigid. Laboratory investigation should include CBC and the coagulation profile to assess the anemia, to rule out the infection or the hematological disorder. Hemoglobin electrophoresis, reticulocyte count, and the LDH should be performed to rule out any hemoglobinopathies. Corporal blood aspiration, it is a diagnostic as well as a therapeutic in the ischemic priapism. Visual inspection of the color and the consistency of the initial aspirate will reveal the dark, deoxygenated blood with a crank case oil appearance in the ischemic priapism. Aspirate sent for the blood gas testing to see the pH, partial pressure, oxygen, and the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. The normal venous blood shows the 40 millimeter of mercury of the partial pressure of oxygen, which reduced to the less than 30 in the ischemic priapism, and the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is a 50, which increased to the 60 in the ischemic priapism, and the pH is decreased from 7.5 to the less than 7.2.5. Penile imaging. Color Doppler ultrasound is recommended in the evaluation of the priapism. It is adjacent to the corporal aspirate in the differentiating ischemic from the non-ischemic. Patient position should be supine and the frog-legged. Examination of the entire penile shaft and the perineum is recommended. Should always be considered in the evaluation of the persistence or the partial erection after the treatment of the ischemic priapism to rule out whether it is ischemic or conversion of the high flow. Differential diagnoses include resolved ischemia with the edema, persistent ischemia, and the conversion to the high flow state. In the ischemic priapism, no blood flow in the cavernous arteries is seen. And in the non-ischemic priapism, normal to high blood flow velocity in the cavernous artery is seen. This is the position during the color Doppler ultrasound of the penile shaft, and it will show that the angle of probe should be the 60 degree. MRI has three possible roles in the priapism: imaging of well-established arterial sinusoidal fistula, presence and extents of the tissue thrombus and the corporal smooth muscle infarction, and the corporal malignancy are the metastasis. Arteriography. Penile arteriography should be reserved for the management of high flow priapism when the embolization is plain. It is too invasive as a diagnostic procedure. Medical treatment for the priapism is historically first aid was applied that includes ice pack, cold bath, cold water enemas, voiding, ejaculation, and the exercise. Oral sympathomimetic drugs, pseudoephedrine, phenylpropylenamine, and the terbutaline can effectively reverse prolonged erection that is less than the 4 hours. Oral medication is not recommended in the management of the acute ischemia that is greater than the 4 hour. Initial treatment for the ischemic priapism is the decompression of the corpora cavernosa by the aspiration. Aspiration will immediately soften the erection and relieves the pain. Aspiration alone may relieve the priapism in the 36% of the cases. Aspiration followed by the intercorporeal saline irrigation will be more effective. Aspiration should be repeated until the fresh bright red blood obtained. This will lead to the decreased intracavernous pressure, relieve pain, remove anoxic, acidotic, and the hypercarbic blood. The procedure of the aspiration is a single large bore 90 gauge needle should be inserted at the penoscrotal junction at the 3 or a 9 o'clock position to avoid piercing of the dorsal neurovascular bundle. Compress the penile shaft between the thumb and first digit just below the needle. Aspirate the shaft until it is soft. Needle left in place, shaft is permitted to refill and repeat the maneuvers. Corporal aspiration, if unsuccessful, should be followed by the alpha adrenergic injection or the irrigation. This is the point where the 2 or 10 o'clock position, we give the local anesthesia for the penile block, and 3 or a 9 o'clock position for the aspiration and the injection of the sympathomimetic drugs. Avoid these ideas to do not pierce the neurovascular bundle. If the aspiration is unsuccessful, should be followed by the alpha-adrenergic injection or the irrigation, in which the phenylepinephrine is a relatively selective alpha-adrenergic receptor, and it is an agent of the choice for the um, giving to the treatment of priapism. Phenylepinephrine is diluted in the normal saline to concentration of the 100 to the 200 microgram per ml. It is administered into the intracavernosal as a 1 ml injection every 3 to 5 minutes. The maximum dosage should be given is a 1 milligram within an hour period of an hour. Monitor blood pressure, pulse rate during and immediately after the intracorporeal injection. Side effect includes the headache, dizziness, hypertension, reflex bradycardia, tachycardia, and the cardiac arrhythmia. Contraindication for the phenylepinephrine is the uncontrolled hypertension and monoamine oxidase inhibitors. This is the pictorial presentation. Here we're giving the local anesthesia at the 2 or 10 o'clock position, and the injection is inserted at the 3 or the 3 and 9 o'clock position. Deoxygenated blood is aspirated from the corpora. And if the still determinescence not occur, then the phenylepinephrine is injected. Here the fresh red blood is seen and the determinescence is seen in the phenyl after the aspiration and the given the injection. Treatment of the sickle cell disease includes ischemic priapism, involve analgesic, hydration, oxygen, bicarbonate, and exchange transfusion. Hematologist emphasis on the IV hydration, sodium bicarbonate for the alkalinization, and the exchange transfusion as the first-line treatment for the sickle cell disease-associated priapism. Hydroxyurea is used in the management of the vaso-occlusive crisis of the sickle cell disease. High success rate with the phenyl aspiration, injection, and irrigation with the intracavernous sympathomimetic drugs for the sickle cell disease priapism. Starting priapism, the goal of the treatment includes the prevention of the future episode, preservation of the erectile function, and the balancing risk versus benefit of the various treatment options. Multiple treatment option has been described. Oral and injectable alpha-adrenergic agonist, terbutaline, anticycling agent like hydroxyurea, gonadotropin-releasing hormone analogs, anti-androgens, baclofen, and the recently phosphodiesterol 5 inhibitors. Limited daily administration of the oral drugs should be considered, typically initiated at the bedtime. Primary action of the systemic hormonal therapy is the suppression of the androgenic effects on the penile erection. To treat the starting priapism with the hormone by targeting pituitary gland by the gonadotropin releasing hormone agonist, suppressing the pituitary function through the feedback inhibition of the diacetyl blocking the androgen receptor by the anti-androgens, and reducing the testicular and the androgen synthesis by the ketoconazole. The goal of the hormonal therapy is to reduce the serum testosterone to the hypogonadal level and block the testosterone effects on the penis. Anti-androgens have the benefits over the gonadotropin releasing hormone analogs as they can taken orally. Baclofen is also inhibit the penile erection and ejaculation through the GABA aminobutyric acid receptor activity. 40 milligram oral nightly can be used in the management of the recurrent priapism in the patient with the neurological disorders, and it will be more effective if given intrathecally. Withdrawal symptoms characterized by the return of the spasticity, agitation, sleeplessness, and the priapism. Surgical management of the ischemic priapism. If conservative management are unsuccessful, then the surgical approach may be necessary. Goal of surgical management is to allow blood flow in and out of the penis freely to prevent the ischemia and the fibrosis of penis. Principle of the most of priapism surgeries involve the creation of the fistula between the engorged corpus cavernosum and the glans, and the corpus spongiosum and dorsal are the saphenous vein. Counsel regarding the erectile function outcome. Complete erectile dysfunction can occur if the low flow priapism persists longer than the 36 hours. Shunting for the surgical procedure for the low flow priapism. Shunt procedure are subdivided on the basis of the anatomical location of the penis. Distal cavernoglenoid shunt should be the first choice of the shunting procedure. Shunting is to be considered for the ischemic priapism event lasting 72 hours or the less. Objective of shunt surgery is the reoxygenation of the cavernous smooth muscle. Reestablish the corporal inflow by relieving the outflow obstruction. It requires the creation of the fistula between the corpus cavernosum and the glans penis, corpora cavernosum and the corpus spongiosum. Corpora cavernosum and the dorsal are the saphenous vein. Percutaneous distal shunting is a less invasive and can be performed in the local anesthesia in the ER. There are the different types of the shunts, which is mostly described according to the location. The most preferably used in the emergency is the percutaneous distal shunts, are the T shunts. Open distal shunt, Algo-Harab shunt, or the corporal snake, combined T-shirt, and the corporal snake maneuver. It is the treatment of the choice for the ischemic prepism if it not treating with the aspiration. Open proximal shunt, saphenous vein, and the deep dorsal vein shunt. Venter shunt is the distal cavernoglenoidal shunt. Procedure is created by the transglenoidal placement of the large ball needle or the angiocatheter in the distal glans and the corpora cavernosa. A core of tunica albigena is separating the glans and the corpora cavernosa removed with the needle, thus creating the fistula between the glans and the corpora cavernosa. Epihote shunt is a glans cavernosal shunt is made with the number 11 blade. Straight incision in the glans and the corpora cavernosum is given. Deoxygenated blood is milked out of the open incision. Once the bright red blood is seen, skin is closed, leaving deeper incision open as a surgical fistula. T-shunt is similar to the abortion, except that the number 10 scalpel is used. The blade is inserted into the each corpus cavernosum from the glans, turned to the 90-degree away from the urethra, and the pull out to create the T-shaped shunt. Again, the deoxygenated blood is milked out of the open incision, and once the bright red blood is seen, the skin is closed. Algo-Harab shunt is an open carpoglanular shunt is indicated. If the percutaneous shunting is a fail to reestablish the blood inflow, it requires the excision of the circular core of the segment of the distal tunica albigena 5 into 5 mm. Transfer incision is made on the dorsal aspect of the glans approximately 1 centimeter. When the detumescence occurs, skin is closed. Corporal snake is a modification of the Algo-Harab shunt. Rather than excising the wedge of tunica and underlying corpora cavernosum muscle, 7 by 8 Heger dilator is advanced through each tunica window proximally to release the blood and the thrombus. Penile is made by the flaccid by the repeated manual compression. Glans skin is approximated and the urethral catheter is placed. Proximal shunts and the venous bypass. If the distal shunt fails, then the proximal shunting is recommended to establish a communication between the corpora cavernosum to the corpora spongiosum at the base of penis. It requires the transscrotal and the transperineal approach, carry a high risk of the urethral injury. Venous bypass includes the Gray-Hay cavernous saphenous shunt, in which the saphenous vein is mobilized by dividing and ligating the tributaries. Saphenous vein is speculated and anastomosed to the corpora cavernosum. By the Berry cavernosal dorsal vein shunt, also known as the deep dorsal vein shunt, distal ligation of the deep dorsal vein and the anastomosis of the proximal deep dorsal vein to the corpora cavernosum. Key factors for determining the successful surgical reversal of the ischemic priapism is the evacuation of the thrombus, reestablishing of the cavernous inflow, patency of the shunt. Assessing of the shunt patency is the visualization of the bright red color in the corporal aspirate, corporal blood gases, color Doppler ultrasonography, measurement of the intracavernosal pressure, penile compressive maneuver, squeeze and the release. Complication of the shunt surgeries includes the penile edema, hematoma, infection, conversion to the high flow priapism, iatrogenic laceration of the cavernous artery, urethral fistula, penile necrosis, and the pulmonary embolism, which is mostly related to the venous bypass. To prevent the shunt obstruction and the failure, avoid the compressive penile dressing, periodic squeeze and release of the distal penis to milk the shunt, maintaining the patency. Anticoagulation should be given preoperatively aspirin 325 mg coupled with the subcutaneous heparin 5000 unit and postoperatively aspirin 81 mg daily for the 2 weeks. Penile processes should be applied as the natural history of the untreated ischemic priapism or the priapism refractive to the intervention is the severe fibrosis, penile length loss, and the complete erectile dysfunction. Used in the management of the acute ischemic priapism when the other procedures failed. Main advantages to immediate implantation is that corporal fibrosis is not yet developed and the penile length may be preserved, and it is technically easier. Complication of the penile process includes infection, urethral injury, device migration, device erosion, and sometimes may need the revision of surgery. Management of the non-ischemic priapism. It is not an emergency, spontaneous resolution, or response to the conservative therapy. Partial erection resolved into 4 days and with the normal erection returns into 2 weeks later. Cavernous aspiration has only diagnostic role in the high flow priapism. Patient demanding the immediate relief, selective arterial embolization is offered. Selective pudendal arterial embolization has the highest success rate, 89 to the 100%. And if it is failed, then we will go for the super selective arterial embolization in which we embolize the internal iliac artery. In the case of long-standing priapism, in which the pseudocapsule develop around the fistula, surgical ligation is a successful. Color Doppler ultrasound guidance is recommended during the exploration to locate the fistula for the ligation. As if we cannot locate the fistula, we can ligate the cavernous artery. And the complication of the arterial embolization is the penile gangrene, perineal abscess, gluteal abscess, and the cavernoscitis. This is the flow chart which we have discussed.